Hello everyone and welcome back to another Silvercast YouTube video. As you have already read by the title of this video, today we are talking about tyre warmers. With this video, I would like to help you decide if you should invest into a set of tyre warmers at all, and also if you do have to invest into a set, then we should give you enough information to make the right choice of selecting the right type of tyre warmer for your tires. We'll also explain the different types of tyre warmers available, as well as the pros and cons for each type. We will also include some tips and tricks at the end of the video on how to use your tyre warmers best. Before we go on though, please make sure you hit the like, subscribe and notification bell icons so that you are notified each time we publish a video. We normally publish sometimes we publish one video a month, and then sometimes we publish one video per week. So it just kind of comes down to having the time to publish videos. So let's get started. Whether you need tyre warmers totally depends on three things. So the first thing is the tires themselves, what type of tires you're going to be using, the weather or the season that you're in, and the budget. So, but predominantly it will depend on the tires that you will be using. So let's just quickly talk about what tyre warmers are. So basically, tyre warmers are heated blankets that keep your tires hot at a set temperature while your tires are not in the use between sessions. So while your bike's in the pits, put your tires on your tyre warmers on your tires and keep them nice and hot. So when you get out on the track, you're pretty much good to go straight away. Now, what types of tyre warmers are there? So basically, there are two versions of tyre warmers, or two types of tyre warmers that you can purchase. You can purchase a single temperature analog, also known as analog tyre warmer. Basically, normally the single temperature is preset to 80 or 85 degrees, depending on which manufacturer or brand you're buying. And the other version is a digital set of tyre warmers, which basically allows you to set the temperature that you want your tires to be heated to. And that's kind of like one of many things that a good quality digital tyre warmer can do for you. Now, there are good reasons to pick one or the other, and we'll go more into detail about the differences and best applications for each type shortly. So let's just kind of discuss the benefit of having a tyre warmer apart from keeping the tires hot for you. The tyre warmers are there not only to keep the tires up to the optimum operating temperature, but they also prolong the tyre life by preventing cold tears, predominantly that are common when you hit the track with full tires. I'm not going to go into detail too much into like cold tears, hot tears, and other sort of things that happen to your tires while on the track, because that's more like a topic for tires. I'm just going to mention briefly what those things, and then basically we'll do a video on tires sometime later on. They also allow you to preset the optimum operating hot tire pressures, right, while you're still in the pits, right? So when you go out there, you kind of already preset your tires to give you the optimum grip on the track. They save your tires from going through a number of heat cycles, which are also very bad for your tires. So each time your tire gets hot and it cools down, the tire carcass gets harder. So the more that happens, the more it damages the tire, and the performance of the tire just reduces more and more. And also with the set of tyre warmers, you basically can make the tire go through a single heat cycle through the whole day as well, simply by keeping it consistently on the tyre warmers as soon as you come off the track. Now let's talk about the differences between the analog and digital tyre warmers. So analog warmers are normally preset to either 80 to 85 degrees, like I mentioned before, Celsius, and to a single rate of speed to get up to temperature. Normally, single temperature tyre warmers are good enough for track day enthusiasts and beginner racers. Digital tyre warmers, on the other hand, allow you to change the temperatures to which you want the tires to be heated to, and a good quality set of digital tyre warmers will also allow you to set the rate of speed to reach the required tire temperature. Another good reason for digital tire warmers is that they can prevent you from overcooking the tires. If you leave the tire warmers on the tires for longer than, let's say, an hour, you may run the risk of overcooking them. Now, tires have moisture in them, and when they get overcooked, that moisture gets drawn out. You can see this when the tire gets the bluey coloring on it. It's very similar to when you come off a very hot track session. So you see the bluing on the tire. Now, that bluing is actually not a good thing, but it's not a big thing as well. Like what it means is that your tire won't be able to perform as well until the bluing is scrubbed off. To prevent the tire warmer from overcooking the tires, you can set the digital warmers to keep the tires just warm enough to prevent them from overcooking and also going through a heat cycle. This practice should basically be mainly used on tires that are going to have warmers on them longer than an hour, like I said before. And this basically really applies to people that are racing, because when you're doing track days, most of the time your sessions are somewhere between 45 and 1 hour breaks. And with racing, if you're looking at like your breaks between your free practice sessions, qualifying and races, can take much longer than an hour. So that's why it would be important to get a set of digital tire warmers in that case, because your tires will be heated for much longer periods of time. So that's kind of like a summary why tire warmers are beneficial to tires. But let's quickly have a look at the different types of tires that you might take to the track, and then we can decide if you need a set of tire warmers or not. So for the sake of this example, I have chosen to use two types of tires from the same manufacturer. So one type is the road version of the tires, which is the Pirelli Rosso 2s, which are kind of more road tires, and the other version is the Pirelli Superbike Slicks, so more really track-oriented tires. It's very common for people to take their bikes with road tire or road-specific tires to the track. I do it as well. I've got Dunlop Q3s on my bike, and I'm going to wait until I use them up to get a set of slicks. So it's very common. But also now you see more and more people using slicks for track days. So let's quickly have a look at those tires and then see how we can justify if you need a set of tire warmers for your tires, and which type you should select. So, for example, first things that we should look at when looking at tires is tire life, right? So a set of road tires will literally give you, or roughly give you, about 8,000 kilometers out of a set. On the other hand, the racing slicks from Pirelli, which is a Superbike slicks, will give you about 200 kilometers if you like it. That's a massive difference, right? And then when you compare the price, the Rosso 2s, which give you 8,000 kilometers, cost about $355 for a set. The Superbike slicks cost about $585. So again, also a big difference in price. So your return on your investment, when you look at it, is you get 22.5 kilometers per dollar out of a set of Rosso 2s, and 0.34 kilometers, which is 340 meters per dollar out of a set of Superbike slicks.
What?
Yes, that's right. You will definitely, in this case, if you're using slicks, need a set of tire warmers for your slicks, because you will need all the benefits from the tire warmers that we have listed before or mentioned before to get the most out of your very expensive slick tires, so that you can get most out of it. The best performance and the longest lasting life. Whereas with Rosso 2s, when you look at the return on your investment, it makes no sense. Like it doesn't really matter if you have Tyre Warmers, because they give you so much more tire life, right? Now we should mention that the road tires are meant to give you a longer tire life because they're predominantly intended for road use. So you don't want to go and change your tires every 200 kilometers. You know, if you on a daily commuter or your weekend, you know, bike to take out, 200 kilometers you get done within, you know, like a day of riding. You know, so also with road tires, they're designed to, you know, be used on different surfaces that you might encounter. They're supposed to work in the wet as well, so they're also designed to heat up a little bit faster on the road because they are designed for the stop and go nature of, you know, daily or road commuting. So heat cycles even won't be a problem for a set of road tires. All you have to do is, you know, get them up to the temperature, within your sort of from your out lap and maybe first 2 laps into your session, you know, 1 or 2 laps into your track session. And then you're pretty much kind of set to good to go, because you literally have more heat in them than before, like than you have on the road, which will also give you more grip as well. So if you're comfortable with those tires on the road with the level of grip that they provide for you, then you should be also comfortable with those tires, you know, on the track without sort of using the Tyre Warmers, you know, because they'll give you a little bit more grip anyway. So yeah, it makes no sense to use, even for that reason, Tyre Warmers on your road tires. And like I said before, when it comes to slicks, it makes every reason to use Tyre Warmers on it, because you absolutely want to be on the go and, you know, from your outlap, you know, and to optimize that grip as much as possible. So there are obviously like differences in shape as well between road and track tires, but that's more like a tire related thing as well. So I'm not going to go too much into detail on that. So in my opinion, when it comes to road tires, there's probably only 2 reasons why you would get a set of Tyre Warmers in, or use a set of Tyre Warmers. One would be basically if you're like me and you just want to sort of be on the gas straight away on your pace coming out of the pits. This will save you 2 things. Obviously, it will allow an increase in tyre life, but it will also reduce the qualities that you know, destroy the tyres if you go out on the track with cold tyres. But you can adjust that or fix that with, you know, playing around with the tyre pressures if the day and the track are, you know, sort of hot enough so that you can play around with your tyre pressures. Which brings me to the second reason why you may want to use Tyre Warmers on your road tyres, and that's if you're doing a track day during a winter or season or on cold days, especially cold mornings, like in Melbourne here. We have 4 seasons in a day, so mornings can be very cold and have really strong gusts of wind, which probably won't allow you to get up to proper temperature, you know, if you just sort of go out on cold tires on the track. So a set of Tyre Warmers will be really good because they will allow you to you know, preheat the tires to the operating temperature, and then you can set the tire pressures in the pits and be good to go and use up all your sessions to have fun. Which is also brings me to another point. Track days are very expensive, so you don't want to, if you're doing a track day on a cold day, or you know, in like I said before, like during winter season, you don't want to sort of skip a few sessions, or, you know, like not be able to, enjoy yourself for the first 2 sessions because you just can't get your tires up to temperature. But again, like for the most part, they will give you enough grip to go fast. It's just that it's a nice to have for road tires. So definitely 100%. Tyre warmers are not necessary if you have road tires that are similar to Pirelli Rosso 2s. So Q3s like I have don't really need tyre warmers. Michelin Pilot Powers, Pilot Roads, or Pilot Pures, and all those versions of tires, not necessary. They really are necessary for track specific tires, like the Pirelli Super Corsas, which are also treaded, but they are really more designed for track. And obviously all the slicks that you can get from Bridgestone to Dunlop and Michelin. So it makes absolute sense just because of the fact that they're so expensive and you really want to maximize their life or use as much as you can because you want to get your best in return on investment. The other thing with Tyre warmers is budget. Maybe you are somebody that's about to do their first or second track day and you have a bike that's got road or adventure tires and you're considering whether you should get a set of Tyre warmers because you see that pretty much anybody that's doing track days has Tyre warmers on. And like I said before, there's good reasons why you don't need Tyre warmers for road tires. But the other thing is it's a big investment. Like for a good set of Tyre warmers you're paying $400 to $2,000, $2,500, and for a cheap, crappy investment, you might have to pay $200. And there is a big difference between those Tyre warmers. You're pretty much spending, if you buy a cheap set of Tyre warmers, you're pretty much wasting your money because the technology and the design and the materials are from 1990s basically. Those cheap Tyre warmers most of the time barely just kind of just cover the tire carcass. They don't cover the wheel as much. I'll show you what sort of like a little bit more in details in the tips and tricks when buying Tyre warmers. But also they are using old versions of copper heating elements, which pretty much no new manufacturers use anymore, or new quality brand manufacturers use anymore. They use cheaper and lower quality internal and external materials, so that it's very easy for the heating elements to create hotspots and burn through either inside or outside materials of the Tyre warmer, which can also damage your tires as well. The Tyre warmers that are kind of like branded, well reputable, like the ITR Tyre warmers, IRC, Thermal Technology, Capit, KLS, just to name a few, they use the latest carbon elements, I think they're called carbon elements, to heat up the tires much faster, much better, much more evenly, and also they last longer. They have at least 2 heating elements. Some have 3 heating elements inside to make sure that they cover absolutely the whole tire, that they can to make sure that they cover the whole tire absolutely, and that it's all nice and even distribution. They have latest materials that apply much better the temperature or the heating elements to the tires, and also on the outside they have materials that keep that heat from escaping much better. They cover more than just the tire. They cover almost most of the wheel, almost where they get to the rotors, so that way they prevent any gusts of wind and cold air to cool the wheel, so even the wheel is getting heated. So normally the rule of thumb is that if you touch your wheel as well, when you sort of touch to see if your tires are, you know, hot before you go out, if your wheel is hot too or warm, that means that the tire carcass is also pretty much like, you know, the whole tire carcass is nice and hot, not just the surface of the tires. So that's a very good thing as well. You can also get tire blankets for your tire warmers that cover the whole wheel. That way definitely no wind and cold air can cool the wheels, because obviously if your wheels are cold, they will actually draw heat from your tires and reduce obviously the temperature of your tires much faster as soon as you exit the pits. So that's one thing to keep an eye on as well. So a good set of tire warmers, a quality set of tire warmers will really definitely help you to make sure that, you know, like your tires are nice and hot compared to like a cheap set of tire warmers. If you don't have the budget for a good set of tire warmers or entry-level tire warmers that are branded, I would suggest just wait it out. You don't need a cheap set because you'll have to replace them again. Especially the more you get into track days, the more you have to use them, you will have to trust them that they will bring your tires up to temperature each and every time. So we'll mention a few of the sort of tips, a few of these things in our next segment, which is the tips and tricks. I picked this tip up from the Dave Moss tuning videos on YouTube, and I think it's quite a good one to know. But lucky that I actually have been using the correct item, which is basically I've skipped using the sort of light duty extension cords, and I've always been using the heavy duty thicker extension cords for my tire warmers, simply because I thought that these are more durable. But also the other benefit of it is that they don't they don't radiate heat as much out from the cables or wires than the thinner cables, which means that more power is going to your tire warmer and the heating element of the tire warmers, and these are not stealing any heat from them. So that's tip number one. Alright, the second tip of the day is start fitting your tire warmer from the spoke that's closest to your tire pressure valve, which in this case is here. So I started fitting the tire warmer from there. It's very simple. Again, this is one of the tips that's also on the Dave Moss tuning videos. That's kind of like a logical thing, because it makes it much easier for you to find where your tire valve is if you have to adjust the tire pressures on your tires, and also if you just have to keep an eye on your tire pressures. When you're checking tire temperatures of your tires, always make sure not to only just put your palm onto your top of your tires, but also put it on the side. You want to make sure that your sides are also up to temperature, so check them with a tire parameter or a laser thermometer, preferably if you have the money to spend on a tire parameter, I think it's called, or parameter, then you should definitely invest into that, because that's a lot more precise. It goes about 5 mil into the tire tread, into the carcass of the tire, should I say, and then it gives you a much more accurate reading. That if you've got a brand new tire warmer or a used one, make sure that every 3 months at least, depending on how many track days you do, you check that your tire warmer is heating your tires up to the correct temperature, right, on the center and on the sides as well, to check and make sure that the tire warmer is doing its job and measuring the correct tire temperatures. It's another thing that I picked up from the Dave Moss videos. The tire warmer has to fit nice and snug onto your tires. It should not be too short, where like you can barely sort of connect to the Velcro on the other end, and also it shouldn't be too big where it's bunching up somewhere like on the tire. Both those are bad things, because it can give you either cold spots on your tire or hot spots on your tire. Turn your tire warmers off every time you leave the pits for a session. So before you leave, obviously disconnect them out of power, make sure they are disconnected, and preferably, you know, to meet the sort of the requirements that most of the tire warmer manufacturers ask you of, don't bunch them together while they're still hot. Don't just sort of like put them like, you know, like in a pile together and chuck them in a corner. Now another trick that I have picked up from somebody not too long ago is, and this I think you can only do with sort of like really high-end tire warmer models that have really good heat-resistant materials on them is, and I'm not suggesting you do this, you have to sort of be willing to sort of like take the risk on yourself, is to actually, as soon as you take the warmer off, this is the front warmer of this set, you should put it back together like that, nice and snug, while it's still warm. That way it keeps itself warm until you're out and come back from your track session, right? So what this actually does is it kind of helps to not let the heating elements inside go through their own heating cycle, because that's obviously what the number one thing that sort of reduces the life of these tire warmers is, you know, obviously the heating elements going through heat cycles. But you have to sort of do it at your own risk, because you know, that might not go well down with the warranty claim if something happens to your tire warmer. One of my sort of last tips is, every time you come back from a track session, make sure you clean and wipe down the tire from any debris that might have stuck on it. The reason for it is that any debris that you leave on there, like, you know, like the stones or extra rubber, whatever. Extra rubber is actually not that bad, but like stone chips and things like that come off the track from the dirty part of the track, they can actually help cause heat hotspots on your tire warmer, and they actually can damage the tire warmers themselves. That's one thing to sort of, and the other thing is they can develop a cold spot as well, because obviously the tire elements are lifted up from the tire, so you won't have the exact same tire temperatures nice and even on the whole tire. You might have a cold spot that you're not aware of. So always make sure you wipe down your tires before you put the tire warmers on. I think that's all the sort of tips and tricks that I know of at the moment that I can pass on to you. If you know some other tips and tricks, or know a little bit more information about, or you want to share some more information with us, then please leave that in the comment section below. Apart from that, I think this is it. I think that's all I wanted to sort of share with you when it comes to tire warmers. I hope this helps you pick the right set of warmers if you do decide to get a set, or you decide that you need a set. And also I hope that I have convinced you that for road tires you really don't need tire warmers unless you're in a winter season and you really need to get them up to temperature, because you can't, so the weather is very cold. But then, like, also for if you're using slicks, then these, you know, I hope I have explained to you why you should definitely consider using tire warmers in that case as well. Apart from that, thank you for watching. I hope you liked this video. I hope it was nice and informative for you, and I hope you guys leave us a like and hit the subscribe button, and I will catch you next time.